Black Waitress warned the billionaire. Don't sign that. Her bold move shocked the whole room. The ballroom shimmered beneath crystal chandeliers, every corner alive with polished laughter and the clink of champagne glasses. Manhattan's elite had gathered for Malik Thompson's annual corporate gala, a night where fortunes were flaunted and deals were sealed. Gliding between silk gowns and tailored tuxedos, Tasha Brooks balanced a silver tray with steady hands. Just another waitress in the eyes of the crowd, invisible to those who made the headlines. Yet her sharp gaze lingered on the thick stack of papers Preston Wells held proudly in his grip. Preston's voice carried over the hum of the room, arrogant and certain. By tomorrow morning, this merger will be untouchable. The board won't know what hit them. His circle of allies, Rebecca Lang, Daniel Ruiz, Jason Mendez, and Jack Callahan, chuckled knowingly, raising glasses to their own cleverness. Tasha leaned in slightly as she refilled Preston's glass. Her eyes scanned the contract. One line twisted her stomach, a hidden trap her late father had once warned her about, a reverse transfer clause. Her chest tightened. No one else seemed to notice. Summoning every ounce of courage, she spoke. "Sir, please don't sign that contract." The gala froze. Glasses stopped mid-air. Every face turned toward the young waitress who had dared to interrupt. The silence shattered with a sharp laugh from Jason Mendez. He leaned back in his chair, his voice dripping with mockery. "She probably cannot even spell half the words in this contract." A ripple of chuckles spread through the circle. Rebecca Lang tilted her head, lips curling in disdain. "Maybe stick to serving drinks, sweetheart. Leave the legal talk to people who actually studied it." Daniel Ruiz shook his head with exaggerated pity, muttering just loud enough for nearby guests to hear. Classic, trying to sound smart, always overstepping. The humiliation spread like wildfire. Conversations paused. Whispers turned into smirks. Executives leaned toward one another, eager to pass along the spectacle of a waitress daring to speak above her station. Tasha's throat tightened, but she stood still, tray balanced in her hands. The weight of 100 stares pressed down on her, each one a reminder that in their world, she was nothing more than background noise. Rebecca raised her glass high, clinking it against Preston's in mock celebration. "Imagine, Preston, a waitress saving your billion-dollar deal. That will make headlines." The crowd burst into another round of laughter. Someone whispered. She probably saw a word she did not understand and panicked. Through it all, Malik Thompson did not laugh. From his seat at the head of the table, his sharp eyes studied her with measured curiosity. He raised a hand, and the noise dulled instantly. His voice cut through the air, calm, commanding, impossible to ignore. "What makes you say that?" The question stunned the room. Even Preston blinked in surprise. The amusement dimmed, but the condescension remained. All eyes swung back to Tasha. Her palms were slick with sweat. Her voice wavered at first, but she forced herself to speak. "That line there, sir, Section 14C, it is vague, too vague. It allows assets to shift without oversight. If I am not mistaken, that is dangerous." For a brief heartbeat, the ballroom hung in silence. Then Jason's laughter boomed again. She read one sentence and thinks she is a financial expert. Rebecca shook her head slowly, savoring the moment. "Vague? Sweetheart, contracts are filled with complicated language. You would not understand it even if you tried." Daniel leaned forward, his smirk spreading. "This is painful to watch. She is embarrassing herself." A wave of whispers circled the hall again. Snickers, sarcastic comments, muttered insults. The orchestra's soft background music could barely mask the ridicule. Tasha's chest burned, but she did not back down. Every sneer etched itself deeper into her memory. Each laugh only sharpened her resolve. From across the table, Preston Wells leaned in, his smile full of contempt. "Miss Brooks, this is a gala, not a classroom. Kindly do not waste our time with baseless interruptions." The crowd nodded in agreement, ready to dismiss her completely. Yet Malik Thompson had not looked away. His raised eyebrow lingered, his expression unreadable. Something in his gaze suggested he had seen a spark others had chosen to ignore. The humiliation was complete, but the question hung in the air. Was the waitress wrong, or had she just uncovered something none of them wanted to see? The laughter echoed long after Tasha stepped back, tray tight against her chest. Their ridicule stung sharper than any cut, but beneath the humiliation, something else burned. Memory. She saw her father again, hunched over the worn oak table, in their small apartment. Stacks of old contracts spread before him, highlighted margins and scribbled notes in every corner. His voice, steady and patient, guiding her hand as she traced the lines. "Do not look at what they want you to see, Tasha. Look at what they are hiding. That is where the danger lives." He had been an accountant, a man with nothing but a sharp mind and an unwavering belief that truth was hidden in the fine print. When illness took him, his lessons remained etched into her bones. And tonight, staring at Preston Wells' contract, she knew he was right again. Her chest heaved as she slipped into the kitchen, out of sight of the glittering ballroom. She pulled her phone from her apron and typed quickly. Message to Dr. Andre Bennett. "It is happening. Reverse transfer clause, just like he warned me about. They are laughing, but I know I am not wrong." Her phone buzzed almost instantly. The reply was short, firm, reassuring. Andre Bennett. "If you are right, do not back down. I will be there. Stand tall, Tasha." She exhaled, her trembling hands steadying for the first time that night. Back in the ballroom, Preston Wells seized the silence like a seasoned performer. He raised his glass high, flashing a smile that barely hid his irritation. "Ladies and gentlemen, let us toast to progress. While some may entertain themselves with bedtime stories about contracts, the rest of us will celebrate what truly matters: power, wealth, and vision." The crowd erupted in applause. Guests clinked glasses, the sound meant to drown out any lingering trace of Tasha's interruption. Rebecca Lang leaned closer to Preston, her smirk razor sharp. "Handled perfectly. Do not give her another thought." Jason Mendez chuckled, shaking his head. "Imagine if the press ever caught wind of this. A waitress lecturing executives. That would be comedy." At the far end of the table, Malik Thompson did not raise his glass. His hand rested against his chin, his eyes locked on the young waitress slipping quietly back into the room. Something gnawed at him. Arrogance he had seen 1,000 times. But conviction? Conviction was rare. Preston noticed Malik's hesitation. His smile faltered for a fraction of a second before he launched into another speech about global markets and limitless returns. The dominance in his tone was clear. This was his stage, and no waitress would steal it from him. Tasha lingered at the sidelines, her tray once again balanced perfectly. To the untrained eye, she looked subdued, another servant fading back into invisibility. But behind lowered lashes, her eyes scanned the duplicate contract she had discreetly photographed earlier. Each clause burned brighter, confirming what her father had taught her years ago. Her pulse raced. Her humiliation was still fresh, but so was her certainty. Somewhere beneath Preston's polished confidence, rot was festering, and she had just seen the first crack. She glanced once more at her phone. Dr. Bennett's words glowed across the screen like armor. "Stand tall, Tasha." The laughter in the room swelled again, but this time, she did not flinch. The ballroom doors swung open at exactly 10:15 p.m. A hush spread as the tall figure of Dr. Andre Bennett entered. His silver hair gleamed under the chandelier, his posture sharp, his presence commanding. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Executives who just minutes ago had been laughing at Tasha now straightened in their seats. Malik Thompson rose immediately, extending a hand. Dr. Bennett. This is unexpected. Andre nodded briefly, then walked past him, his eyes scanning the table until they rested on Tasha. She was still standing by the wall, tray in hand, the picture of quiet resilience. His voice carried through the silence, calm, yet heavy. Miss Brooks, I reviewed your message. You are correct. That contract is not a merger, it is a fraud mechanism. Gasps spread across the room. Glasses clinked as hands shook. Jason Mendez muttered under his breath, "Impossible." Daniel Ruiz and Jack Callahan exchanged nervous glances. Preston Wells's face drained of color, but he forced a laugh. "This is absurd. With respect, Doctor, you are mistaken. Our lawyers reviewed everything." Rebecca Lang jumped in quickly, flipping through the contract with theatrical precision. Clause 14C is standard in global mergers. It ensures flexibility for asset movement. There is nothing illegal here. Andre's gaze was cold. Flexibility? No, that clause is a reverse transfer. It allows assets to vanish offshore with no oversight. It is the oldest laundering trick in the book, and I suspect you knew that, Mr. Wells. The weight of the words sank into the room. Preston's jaw tightened, but before he could speak, Tasha stepped forward. Her hands shook slightly, but her voice did not. He knew. They all knew. Gasps again. All eyes turned toward her, the girl they had mocked now standing firm. From her apron pocket, she pulled out her phone and tapped the screen. A series of photographs appeared, projected as Andre connected it to the ballroom monitor. Each image revealed page after page of the contract, highlighted clauses, suspicious wording, trails that only an expert would notice. Rebecca snapped. "This is nonsense. A waitress sneaking photos? That is not admissible." Tasha cut her off, her voice sharper than ever. "It is more than photos." She pressed another button. The ballroom speakers crackled to life. A voice recording played, Preston Wells himself, only hours earlier, in the hotel restroom. His words were clear, undeniable. "Finish the transfer tonight. The cartel money must be clean before the feds catch on." The room erupted, shouts, gasps, chairs scraping back. Jason's face went pale. Daniel buried his face in his hands. Jack Callahan whispered, "Oh my God." Preston's mask shattered. He lunged forward. "That recording is fake! You cannot frame me like this!" Andre stepped between him and Tasha, his voice steady. "Frame you? No. Expose you? Yes." At that moment, the ballroom doors burst open again. A swarm of FBI and SEC agents rushed inside, badges flashing under the chandeliers. The music stopped abruptly as agents surrounded the table. "Preston Wells, Rebecca Lang, hands where we can see them. You are under arrest for conspiracy, money laundering, and racketeering." Rebecca tried to gather papers, but an agent pulled them from her grasp. Preston thrashed as cuffs locked around his wrists. His eyes burned into Tasha. "You have no idea what you just did. Dangerous people will come for you." Tasha did not flinch. "Actually, I know exactly what I did. And those dangerous people? They are being arrested in 6 countries right now." The lead agent confirmed, "Operation is active. 43 arrests made in the last half hour." The room was chaos. Executives whispering in fear, guests stumbling toward the exits, Jason, Daniel, and Jack frozen in disbelief. Through it all, Malik Thompson's gaze found Tasha. No laughter, no doubt. No disdain, only respect. For the first time, the billionaire who had entertained giants looked at the waitress not as a servant, but as someone who had just saved his empire. The ballroom, once full of glitter and laughter, now felt hollow. The music was gone, the chandeliers seemed colder, and the hum of power had turned into whispers of fear. The executives who had mocked Tasha only an hour ago sat silent, their faces pale, their arrogance stripped away. Rebecca Lang stumbled forward, her voice desperate. "I did not know. I was only following orders. Please, you must believe me." But her words fell flat. No one moved. No one believed. Agents led her away as if she were invisible. Preston Wells fought harder, his curses echoing against the marble walls. "This is not over. You will all regret this. She ruined everything." His eyes, full of venom, locked on Tasha until the agents forced him out of sight. The sound of the ballroom doors closing behind him felt like a heavy curtain dropping on a failed performance. Silence returned. All that remained was Tasha, standing, small in her waitress uniform, but taller than anyone in that room. Her chest rose and fell with sharp breaths, her hands still trembling, but her eyes clear and steady. Andre Bennett stepped toward her. His voice was gentle, carrying both authority and affection. "Your father would be proud tonight. He taught you well, and you honored his lessons with courage." Tasha's throat tightened. For the first time that evening, tears filled her eyes. She nodded softly, unable to find words. Malik Thompson, who had been silent through the storm, finally stood. He looked around the room, then back to Tasha. His voice was measured but strong enough to carry across the hall. "Tonight, you saved this company. You saved lives, reputations, and futures. And you did it when no one else had the courage to speak." Gasps and murmurs filled the room. The statement was undeniable. The same people who had mocked her were now shifting uncomfortably in their chairs, realizing that the waitress they ridiculed was the reason they still stood. Some lowered their heads in shame. Jason Mendez could not meet her eyes. Daniel Ruiz muttered under his breath. She was right all along. Jack Callahan simply looked stunned, his jaw tight with unspoken regret. Andre placed a hand on Tasha's shoulder, grounding her. Malik's gaze never left her face, steady and respectful. For once, in a room filled with wealth and power, it was not money or titles that commanded respect. It was truth, courage, and integrity. The balance had shifted forever. 6 months later, the world looked different. The echoes of that Manhattan ballroom had faded into history, replaced by a new reality that carried Tasha Brooks forward. Faceless visuals flickered like pieces of a documentary. No longer a waitress in a simple black uniform, Tasha now walked through polished glass doors in a sleek office suit. Her steps were steady, her shoulders high. On the screen appeared her new title in bold letters, Director of Compliance, Thompson Global. Another frame, a classroom filled with eager young faces. Tasha stood at the front, handing out internship letters. These were not the children of the wealthy, but underprivileged youth, kids who, like her, had been told they did not belong. Her voice guided them with confidence. She was opening doors that had once been locked to her. Cut to the newspapers rolling off the press. Headlines screamed the downfall of the powerful, Wells and Lang, sentenced in federal fraud case. Their mugshots stared back, grim reminders of greed undone. The camera panned over Jason Mendez, Daniel Ruiz, and Jack Callahan. Not in prison, cells, but in smaller, quieter humiliations. Resigned from boards, stripped of influence. Names erased from corporate towers where they once ruled. Their downfall was silent, but no less permanent. The montage slowed. A community center. A youth event buzzing with chatter and applause. Tasha stepped up to the microphone, poised, confident, glowing under the lights. She spoke, her voice carrying the weight of every insult she had once endured and the strength of every victory she had earned. Revenge is not destroying those who mock you. Revenge is building a life so strong, their words mean nothing. The audience erupted in applause. The camera found Malik Thompson seated quietly in the crowd. His expression was calm, but his eyes held something unmistakable: pride, respect, and approval. He gave a single nod. The music swelled, triumphant, empowering, unbroken. The screen faded to black. A single line remained, glowing in the darkness. Strength is the truest form of justice.